Okay, so why would I show such a clip, right? We could break down that scene to say what was the reinforcer for the Cenobites, right? We know that they're there to essentially torture and kill anybody who opens the box, right? Even if you may have opened it by mistake. But maybe that's not the case. Maybe their actual reinforcer for their behavior is desire for something, right? And so even Pinhead recognized, like, hey, hold on. Yeah, she opened up the box physically, she figured it out. But these two people over here are really the ones that desire to call us, right? But they desire to call us that stick and we would torture her and kill her. So we see that different desires are what truly leads to the intention of behavior, right? On the flip side, the antagonist, the man particularly, because he's the one, he's the big deceiver. And if you've never seen this movie, it's phenomenal, what they do to him. Well, not essentially what they do to him, but what he transformed into, that normal guy who called them out, he ends up like killing all of them. He transforms into something really, really, like anything worse than that. But he's the one that desired a certain outcome, right? And so he goes by doing it in mischievous ways. So all of this could be dissected to say, hey, we got different reinforcers for different people. We got different desires and motivations to act upon different reinforcers. Just something to pay attention to as we sort of talk about these schedules of reinforcement and how they deal with desires. So, one of the key things is that behavior goes where reinforcement flows, right? Behavior goes where reinforcement flows. So behavior is directly led towards any sort of reinforcement. But what that reinforcement is particularly valuable, because we say it has to come from innate desire, right? Your behavior, things you do, are from an inborn, innate desire for certain things, certain stimulus, certain factors. So we need to understand what motivates people and just what desires they have. All right, schedules of reinforcement. Are you familiar with these? Where do we see schedules of reinforcement take shape in very active ways? Right? We say reinforcement is led by a particular stimulus, which we're motivated for and have desires for, right? At least it's to do habitual things, things that become habit. So where are some places that people have bad habits that would be very, very devastating to their well-being? Yes?
Las Vegas.
There you can say, right? We say the casino, right? Casino has figured it out. They figured out schedules of reinforcement, right? They sort of hacked the brain. They figured out that if you put a reward on a variable schedule, and depending what that schedule is, people will tend to come back to that sort of reinforcement, right? And here, when we're talking about gambling, we could talk about maybe Horseshoe, we could talk about Rivers Casino, and we see the people at the slots and they keep going, they have no idea when they're gonna receive the reward, right? But they keep giving away money, maybe they're giving away their life savings, their earnings, their rent money, right? Money for their children. And they're essentially waiting on a reward to show up that is on a random schedule, right? We can say this schedule is random, is variable, right? We don't really can't predict when it's gonna come. But this leads to some sort of incessant habit to repeat the process, right? Repeat the process over and over again, because there's a potential for a victory. There's a potential for a dopamine hit, right? And we want to feel that adrenaline rush when we win, right? Maybe we win $100, $150. And you're like, whoa, this is real, I actually use $50 to win 150, this could work. And so you keep going, thinking like, well, okay, I made 150, do I leave? Or do I stay and try to make 300, right? So we could say some of the motivation there is money, right? Gambling is on a variable interval scale, right? It's random, nobody knows when you're gonna win. And a reward is essentially victory, right? Yeah, money is there as a stimulus, right? Money is there as a motivation, but you really want the sense that you've won something. So we can think of, here they use checking phone for text, right? Notifications on your phone, at random, you have no idea who's about to text you, no idea when some notification is going to pop up. But do you check the phone when you hear it, see it, lights up, whatever? You find yourself checking the phone. Who here avoids the phone? Like, you're like, I'll get to it, you know, it's not that important. You know, I'll get to it when I get to it. Okay? Also too, think of schedules of reinforcements for getting paid. Right? You think of these places of employment, why would they do bi-weekly versus weekly pay? Any idea why they would do that?
Better.
That looks better? What looks better, bi-weekly or weekly?
Bi-weekly. You get paid garbage, or, so garbage, and it's like a couple of weeks,
Okay. So we say the mental concept of the illusion of more pay, right? Although it's the same pay, it's just in a different schedule, okay? May create a stimulus for people to return back to work, continue to work there, right? Anyone else have a different theory on that? Like, would you prefer to get paid every week, or would you prefer to get paid bi-weekly? Who here would prefer to get paid every week? Once a week, why?
Because, like, instead of having to wait an extra week, like, it'd be easier to, like, designate money towards what I need to do, like, cause it's coming first, like, it's coming before, so, if that makes any sense.
Okay. But we would say that's a personality thing, right? Maybe you're a good planner, you're a good money manager, right? The jobs have recognized that most people aren't. Most people don't save money, most people are bad holding on to the money. So they also know that if they pay by every week, that people will spend the money quick. It might not even make it to work. It might be so broke they don't even have money to get to work, right? So two reasons. One is the illusion that you're making more money to spread it out. The other reason is essentially because human beings are compulsory when it comes to money, right? Most people are not that responsible, hence they wouldn't pay their rent on time, they wouldn't save the amount of money, designate, plan, all these different things. So jobs have recognized this is sort of a more responsible way of paying people, right? It keeps people, and it creates more better money management skills to the employees, kind of forces them. A weekly schedule may not be too compulsory. Yes?
The hospital I worked at just switched to, you can like opt into daily pay.
Any idea why they would do that? No idea? Daily pay? That you could just get your money from working that day?
Like you get it the next day, like what you worked yesterday.
Yeah. Interesting. Anyone else ever heard of that, or?
The Portillo's near my house does that. They advertise that daily pay.
idea why Portillo's would engage in that practice.
Maybe they're just trying to get young kids and be like, oh, we'll pay you every day, so if you're gonna pay, you know, I'm always gonna have money.
Hmm.
I think that's what he did.
People that wanna be impulsive with it.
Hmm.
There are people that wanna be impulsive with it and just like have it. And they don't wanna be patient and wait for 2 weeks.
Okay, so they're saying we're seeking impulsive employees here, right? Because one, they may have assessed they have a high turnover rate regardless, right? Two, is taking too long to get people in quick enough, so they'll figure like, as long as we get people in quick enough to do the job, to service all these people, we could care less about the turnover rate, the amount of people who leave the job, right? But the stimulus is like to get people quickly, right? Man, you get paid, you know. You could buy some shoes every other day. What were you gonna say?
And it's like a continuous reinforcer, so like, you come to work the next day, then you get your pay.
Yeah.
So then it keeps you coming back every single day that you work, making you less likely to like skip shifts or call off.
Okay, so you say it's a continuous reinforcer. It may work to keep you long term, right? Possibly. Depends on the demographic, right? Maybe we say, maybe it makes more sense to younger people, because they need a quicker reward, or quicker stimulation, more continuous than others, just because of their behavior. Yes?
I think it makes sense if you're trying to like rapidly bring people in. And kind of how people do a lot of sign-up bonuses and stuff.
Yeah.
Just cause like, I know when I applied there, it was like, like by the time I got done with orientation and like the first pay cycle, it was almost a month by the time I actually got paid. So like, if someone's just looking for money and like, we just need people to come get hired, then
Yeah. And you say maybe it's something that's, needs to be done just right now, right? Maybe it's not a long-term strategy, but maybe we say, hey, Portillo's is expanding, they've opened up 50 new stores, how do we get an army of people in, right? We introduce a new incentive, a new pay structure, and now just get everybody in the door, right? And then you say, now you're in the door, you've been working here a little bit, you've developed this habit for showing up for Portillo's, we're getting paid, we're gonna change the schedule now, right? Because our cost structure is gonna be a little bit different. Okay, so we say fixed ratio, right? Fixed ratio. All right, it's for quick learning, quick extinction. Quick learning, quick extinction. What are some examples of quick learning, quick extinction? We say, all right, we have a rat in a contraption, and rat needs to push a lever to receive a pellet, right? How fast do we want the rat to do it, to learn it? How long do we want the rat to remember it, right? To be able to form a new habit. And so if we're choosing fixed ratio, we're like, well, we give a pellet once every 5 times the rat pushes the lever, right? And so this will lead to sort of a high and steady behavioral change. So be quick for the rat to learn, right? 1 to 5, that's not bad. Pushes 5 times, get a pellet. But then also it leaves very quickly, right? I would say it's not continuous enough. Maybe if we increase that and we say 1 to 2, right? Then the rat will really pick up this behavior, hold on to this behavior, and not let the behavior go away, right? So we say fixed ratio, it has its uses for different things. Variable ratio, right? We say unpredictable. It's high and steady and has a good rate of response. Let's say we do same thing with the rat. Right, rat pushes the first time, pellet comes out, like, okay, rat is thinking that it's going to receive pellet each time. But no, that's not the case. We're confusing rat here. We'll drop another pellet in at the 4th time, and then we'll do another after 2 more times. What would be the point of that? Like, what would happen with that behavior, with the rat? Think it would hang on to keep pushing the lever, or it will kind of get bored and stop pushing the lever? What do you think will happen with that behavior? It would keep doing it, yes.
I was gonna say, is this one that's more of, I don't know if it does work this way, but more in line of like, do it, leave and come back, leave and come back, and it gets reinforced over time?
Yes, it could be reinforced over time. We could say maybe this is the same as gambling, right? You say it's random, you are receiving a reward, you have no idea when it's coming, and so, maybe it keeps you coming back, right? So you say gambling, you get random assignment of, positive reinforcements. There's some negative stuff too, you're losing money, right? If you don't, sometimes you lose all, and other times you win big. But the thing is, you keep showing up back, right? And now you have a gambling problem. You have a gambling problem because you keep showing back up, right? And then we have what? Fixed interval, right? Interval deals with time, doesn't deal with the actions, right? So it deals with time, how much time do we elapse before rat receives pellet. Here it's not about the lever, push it 5 times, but the pellet's not coming out until 5 minutes, each 5-minute interval, right? And so we can kind of measure and see, how does time affect people? That kind of maybe goes back to the frequency, right? Time dealing with like, being at the hospital or Portillo's, we say, oh, okay, people are more responsive to the time frame, right? A daily pay service versus weekly pay or bi-weekly is more responsive to change behavior in the long term. And then we have, what's our last one here? Variable interval, right? Slow and steady, slow and steady. What if we pay people in a random way? And people will show up to work, like what would happen to the work? Yeah. What do you think would happen to employees if they get paid, let's say they got paid randomly, what would happen?
They just stop showing up.
Right, and you say, okay, that's not effective in the long term, right? Maybe there's some people who, because of their previous habits, may sort of stick around, right? So yes, these are schedules of reinforcement, and so what we're concerned with is either the frequency or the time, right? Frequency, time. Are more of us apt because we need things to be constant, or more of us apt to do things because a certain time has elapsed, right? Some of us are time sensitive, others are action sensitive. Superstitious behavior, right? We could say, well, it's very hard for us to predict certain behaviors if people have already reinforced some sort of confirmation bias. Superstitious practices, like think of avoiding a black cat, right? If we believe that black cats are bad, and now we're trying to avoid black cats at all costs, that may make it very challenging for us as therapists to try to change that behavior, because now we're dealing with something that was accidentally reinforced. It wasn't reinforced on purpose, right? But things like superstitions are very hard for us to undo, because there's a confirmation bias. We just believe that certain things are such. What are some superstitions you could think of that people follow? Some common superstitions. Right, here's one. Michael Jordan used to wear his University of North Carolina shorts underneath So we don't know, but he had already confirmed that it worked because of his belief, right? In which case, maybe superstitions are good, right? So we reinforce these within our mind, they're self-reinforcement. Doesn't take a therapist or someone on the outside to reinforces it. They're self-reinforced because it reduces anxiety for us. So we think of our beliefs, we could argue, right, for the sake of argument, that even our spiritual religious beliefs are comforting coping mechanisms. Right? Like I said, Freud would argue that, right? Because Freud believed that religion and spirituality were more illusions of the mind to cope, right? That we constantly reinforce ourselves either positive or negative, right? We may punish ourselves with guilt, right? We may reward ourselves with praise, right? Or some sense of we're good, reward ourselves by a sense of feeling of being good, right? Punished by a sense of feeling of being bad and evil. Sake of argument, right? I don't agree with Freud here, but it's a good sort of thought experiment, right? But we know these sorts of things reduce anxiety, which is reinforcing, which means that people will continue to practice, right? It reinforces by reducing anxiety. Okay, matching law, right? People will choose from concurrently available responses according to the relative frequency of reinforcement from each response, right? Their choices will be based on highest rate of reinforcement. So we say highest rate of reinforcement. I'm going to work at Portillo's because that's the highest rate of reinforcement. Or one would say I'm not going to work at Portillo's because they don't pay enough overall, right? So I can wait. I don't need them to frequently pay me this little bit of money, right? I need a different reinforcement. I'm sensitive to the actual dollar amount, not the schedule in which I get paid. So we say some things people choose is, well, no, highest rate, right? Where to get the quickest reward. And they are irregardless of the amount, or we could say the magnitude. So on the opposite side, we can say highest magnitude of reinforcement. I stay at the job while I hate the job. Okay, why is your behavior exhibit that you stay at the job? Well, it has the highest magnitude of reinforcement. They pay $300,000 a year. Right? So law office, you're a lawyer. Right? And I know many lawyers, 95% of them hate their jobs. Right? But the ones who do big law, they make a lot of money, and so you're like, well, why do they stay? Right? The highest magnitude of reinforcement. Right? It's not about they make it paid once a month or random, right? Depending on the clients that they get, how long the case may take, all the sorts of things. But it's about the highest magnitude of reinforcement. So yes, we have to think of these things: magnitude and rate, immediacy, and others. So, what are you going to do first? Test yourself. So here, give me your list, your private personal list. You are put in a room by yourself, right? And the incentive of being placed in a room by yourself is that you will receive an A in one of your classes if you can study nonstop for, I don't like that example. Let's go to that one. So in an everyday scenario, what do you find yourself doing? I would say, what is your frequency? So take this list of 4. Tell me more, what is the frequency of these items in an everyday basis? Which ones do you do the most? And which ones do you do the least? I'll give you a couple minutes. what are your impulsive sort of motivators? And then tell me why you think you do such. All right, what do you think? Who wants to go first? From most to least. Give me your from most to least in the everyday period. What do you find yourself doing more often? What do you think?
I'm just looking the question of doing most to least, like what?
So, I mean, do you find yourself, in an everyday period, right, you're college students, do you find yourself studying information for school, right? Think of the amount of time, in a 24-hour period. Do you find yourself texting more, engaging in texting, 24-hour period? Do you find yourself on social media more in a 24-hour period? Or do you find yourself just doing random info search? You're looking for concerts to go to, you're looking at information, things that are personal to you, non-school related searches.
Study, text, search, social media.
Yeah, what's your order?
Studies, text.
So study more.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So for most of these, you study, then you text, social media, and then go. Why? Because you're motivated and focused by school and not socializing?
Well, I mean, I search at the bottom for events, and then I go to events with my friends, but then when I write this down, like, we'll see each other next time at the other event.
Anybody have a different sort of order? Yes.
Mine would go social media, text, study in sport, and then Google searches.
Alright. Yeah, it sounds more, I think, what I would perceive as like normal, right? I think social media would usually, like, on average, would maybe come up first as a rank. Anyone else has a different order, and, you know, your honest assessment of yourself.
Probably text, study, social media.
Okay, and so think about the different behaviors. We say, hey, social media is engaging in a larger social communication, right? Whereas texting is more direct and personal. So you're like, well, you know what? I'm not really interested in this larger social communication, what's going on in the entire world and everything. You're not more concerned with like a few people, right? Want to talk, converse. So maybe motivations is more direct relationships, right? And I think you may have mentioned before, like, you know, you may have a sense of introvertedness, right? Like people draw out energy because some of the things they do are illogical or it's like worthless or something. So maybe you find that engaging in that activity, that's not really your motivator, right? The larger sense of social media. You'd rather be more direct, one-on-one, now keep your interest. You, not so much, maybe direct, right?
I mean, like, when I put social media, it also like included, like, in my mind, like, using social media as a text method.
Okay.
But like, if I'm gonna go on my phone, chances are I'll probably go on social media for like 2 or 3 minutes, then check like texts or like through social media and stuff. So,
Anyone else? Right, it had it different originally, I kind of changed this, but this was almost thinking of like in a classroom setting where you find yourself mostly doing. One is like, you find yourself paying attention, you know, to the lecture, you find yourself like going, do a Google search for personal things, or do you find yourself, you know, I'm going to look at social media until I hear a new motivating thing. So think about that in all of your lectures, right? You walk past the classrooms in Concordia, down this hallway in Addison Hall, walk past the professors talking, and you say, oh, who's paying attention, who's not? Right? And then you see people's head pop up when something interesting is spoken about that's right? So we say in a 50-minute time frame, our scheduled reinforcement has to be, we gotta say something that's interesting, right? You gotta say something intriguing, maybe say something, Professor I'll say something funny, right? Maybe show a video. Maybe do something because for the average human being, attention span is low, right? As we look at different age groups, attention span sharply decreases, right? And say, guess what, if this was a class full of 3-year-olds, and I'm up here lecturing the 3-year-olds, I'm like, good luck, Professor Ross, you're not gonna pay attention, right? Lectures is for people in college age. Lectures not even for high school, it's not even for elementary school. The profession is different, right? Up there, you're like, well, we need a ton of activities, we gotta, put them in groups, have a ton of stuff in classrooms. Teacher has to set up the classroom, all these activities, why? Well, the stimulation is gonna be different. The schedules of reinforcement to keep engaged students is going to be a totally different dynamic, right? So here it's still tricky, because you're like, hey, you know what? Sometimes things are boring. Content is boring unless it's like, aha, this is personal. Yeah. It's just me, mom and dad, where I work, something interesting I'm curious about, and then we do what? We go back to our phones or laptops. We could do some sort of laboratory experiment in any classroom, right? So something to think about. What do you do in a 50-minute period in a class? You'd be like, well, 20 times I'll go on social media, 10 times I'll look at a text message, 5 times I'll look something personal, like what's the weather next week, anything free going on in Chicago, festival, blah, blah, blah. And then the other time I'd be like, oh, I'm studying for a different class or something, right? Catching up on like class stuff, like school stuff. Right? And then we could observe that, like, what's our real priorities? If we use that information, we might see something insightful about it. We're like, you know what? I'm not really interested in school. I thought I was, but my behavior shows different, right? Or Rebecca, I'm really interested. I actually like, learning. I found myself just looking up things that are academically influenced in some way. Or we say, hey, I'm a social butterfly, I need to kind of text and see what's up with everybody, or go on social media, or I'm a person that likes to be an observer of entertainment. Like, I can go on TikTok for 3 hours and just laugh at stuff. I don't wanna produce content, I just wanna see other people's content, right? Things that could be insightful, to know more about ourselves if we want to change behavior, have a better understanding of our own behavior. All right, some matching law examples, right? Student in the classroom who displays disruptive behavior. Now imagine that the teacher attends to the student's behavior 100% of the time, while another attends only 50% of the time. All other factors being equal, you will likely see that the child's disruptive behavior is twice as prevalent with the former teacher as opposed to the latter. Can anybody tell me why that would be? Right, yeah, teacher that disruptive child, you got one teacher that pays attention to him and constantly telling them, don't act like that, don't act like that. Another one say, tell them don't act like that half of the time. I'm really focused 100%. We find that the behavior persists, right? It's more prevalent when you focus on telling the student 100% of the time stop doing something, as opposed to giving them a schedule of 50% of the time. Why would that be?
Giving them consistent reinforcement.
And what would that do? That would be like a bad thing, you think, for the child?
Will encourages the behavior.
It encourages the behavior. Or maybe we say, hey, too much frequency for some people desensitizes them, right? And now if you're desensitized, it doesn't really do anything. You're just constantly doing something that has no effect, right? And so we said we have to spread things out for certain people. Remember we said depending on the context of what motivates and drives people. But if we do desensitize the child, then we're kind of being pointless and our own behavior kind of change. Here's another example of matching law, right? So some participants who were 3 children diagnosed with autism could choose to play in a setting along with a peer or sibling. In the first condition, the duration of access to toys and how highly preferred those toys were remained consistent across both settings. But in the second condition, the researchers made more highly preferred toys available and for a longer duration only in the setting with peers and siblings. This resulted in the children with autism playing more frequently in a setting with a peer or sibling than playing alone, right? Which means that a small change to the environment, increasing the availability of reinforcement in social situations, could eventually lead to big gains in children's ability and desire to communicate with their peers. This is all because behavior goes where reinforcement flows. In simple terms, we need to introduce some things that motivate people. Here, the motivation is highly preferred toys, and we're giving them a longer duration of time to interact, right? So we say that is what has changed the reinforcement. Okay, Premack principle. Let's skip that. Okay, dog must learn that if he wants to chase the ball again, which is a highly desired behavior. So we say we have to understand what is a highly desired behavior, what is a less desired behavior, right? So he wants to participate in the high desired behavior, which is chasing the ball. But he knows that in order to do so, he really can't do it to himself like that, for the most part. He must bring the ball back to his owner and drop it, which is a less desired behavior. So that is essentially the reinforcement that in order to get something that we desire, we must do things that we really don't desire in order to complete school here at the university. You're gonna have to do the work. You probably don't wanna do the work, right? But you know that the ultimate goal is to have a desired behavior of getting good grades and finishing up college and getting your degree. Okay, we're gonna end off here. I'm gonna upload, I think everyone's good on the textbook, so I'm gonna upload all the assignments to Blackboard that I want you to submit, and get everything up there, so. Some of the things that's on the syllabus, I may not upload, which means you won't have to. So just follow us on Blackboard with submission of assignments, and we'll kind of stick to that. All right, have a good weekend, everyone. See you later.